Hi folks, welcome to another Irish whiskey review with me, Marty McCauley. I hope everything's alright with you, I hope everything's fine. The weather over here the past week has been scorching hot. Records set, week, day after day, hottest temperatures ever, which in comparison to lots of places isn't that warm, but we are in Ireland. So the 31.3 degrees, I think it was, centigrade. Really, really hot. But being down at the coast, it's not just so bad because there's a bit of a sea breeze coming in. But it's nice, you get to see the kids jumping in the harbour and swimming about out in the sea, cooling down, and seeming to having a whale of a time. So yeah, good on them. I don't swim, by the way. I don't see the point. You going into the sea. No, I don't understand. Some people love it. They think it's the best thing ever. I don't know. I'm not so sure. I've never learnt, nor have I any great desire to learn to. Anyway, but probably to my detriment. But you never know. So tonight we're going to do the Wise Isle whiskey. Yeah, from our friends down at Listokes Distillery. I like the label, by the way. I do like this label. This sort of Art Nouveau. This be Art Nouveau. I like the label. It's quite nice, and I also like the sort of play on words. Wise Isle whiskey or wow. Yeah. So this is a sourced spirit, but they do have their own distillery. They have a distillery and they make gin. Listokes gin. I know a few people that absolutely love it. It's not really for me because it's too perfumey, and much more for Justin's palate than my own. I don't really like that kind of perfumey thing. I don't like Earl Grey tea. I love tea, but I just can't really do Earl Grey. That kind of jasmine-y, really, really perfumey. Yeah, that doesn't really go for me at all. Even with a mixer, I don't like juniper particularly. So yeah, it not for my palate. However, this is sourced spirit from the Great Northern Distillery, John Teeling's place, which is supplying so many of the distilleries now that are bringing out brands that are not their own spirit. So they're bridging the gap, and GND, as it is referred to, are supplying this to third parties. So yeah, so it's coming along. They are pumping loads of stuff out, and there's more and more brands. Certainly in the US, there's more Irish whiskey appearing, and when it's appearing under different labels, but a lot of it will be coming from the Great Northern Distillery. If you go onto the website for Listokes, they tell you quite openly that's where they're getting it from, quite transparent about it. As to the best of my knowledge, they are not going to be distilling their own whiskey. They're quite happy to source that. Now, it's being sent over to Russia. This stuff is being sent to the US, Russia, the Far East. They've got some distribution over there. So yeah, they're going great guns. And recently, they raffled off a 5% share of their company. And there was a guy won it. So hopefully we'll get speaking to this new whiskey baron at some point in the not too distant future. So yeah, so good on them. It's something totally different, something new. Now it's finished. It's a blend, and it is finished. It says in a variety of casks, and then mentions Imperial stout. So I am going to assume that it's a bourbon cask finish and then finished in Imperial stout casks. So you would expect that sort of nice vanilla essence, vanilla flavourings coming from the bourbon, finished off with Imperial stout to give it a nice sort of creamy, a bit of a layer of flavour to it as well under that. Got a little bit of peat in it. Well, it doesn't say how much, but probably not very much. Now, as you can tell, I've had this a few times before, and we got a tasting sent out to various people who watch the show that Justin and I do on the Saturday night. So, on the nose, again, it's perfumey, but in a fairly subtle, slight way. You can tell that the people who have brought this out have an affinity for gin, okay? But that's not a bad thing in any way, because what they're doing is they're bringing those light characteristics, those light flavours over to their whiskies. So you can kind of see this as being a halfway point. That perfumey thing that you get with gin, which for me, especially the juniper and some of the other botanicals used that really sort of hit you in the face and are just too overpowering. In this, they're much more subdued. They arrive at a different pace altogether. They're mellowed. They're definitely there, but it's delivered in a totally different way. It's subtle. It's to be found, not leaping out at you and attacking your nostrils and being aggressively. They're there, and it's that DNA of gin, if you like, that beginning and the origins of gin that have transplanted over onto this whiskey. As you go through the nose, as you go through that nosing process, it starts off very sweet, honey. You're getting that jasmine. You're getting that light spiced nose to it, where there's a tiny little bit of white pepper. It's coming through in that essence, but it's doing it in a very nice, easy, approachable way. As I say, you have to go to it rather than it coming straight at you. Oh yes, very nice. It's coming up on the nose. Not a massive complexity there, but that's not what it's for. It's designed for that slightly sweeter palate. Now there's no hint of peat on the nose. I'm not getting any peat on the nose at all. But what it's doing is it's coming through as a something there. So I'm not getting peat, but I'm getting a little complexity. This is a young whiskey. They say it's a young whiskey. They don't put an age statement on it. So I'm going to say that there's some fairly young grain in it. So there's no age statement. They say it's a young whiskey, but to give it a little bit more complexity, they've added in a little bit of smoke, and that's to be congratulated. Now it's 43%. Yep, so it's got a nice ABV. They've decided that it needed a little bit more ABV to pull it up. Yeah, it has that easy approachable nose. Yeah, first thing you notice as it comes in, you do get a little bit of smoke. I think possibly it's coming to me because I'm prepared for it, I'm looking for it. So it's there. Lots and lots of nice sweetness, clean, fresh fruit. The spice has kind of subdued on the delivery, but on the finish it comes through. Finish, medium length, which is surprising for a young whiskey. It has a reasonably good finish. At the very tail end of the finish, you're getting a very sort of grassy note. So probably as it's going through on the finish, you're getting that more of the grain influence away at the back. Mouthfeel, quite good. There's a nice bit of heat. This doesn't need any water, I don't think. There's a nice bit of heat there, almost chili-esque. On the nose, there's that little bit of white pepper. On the tongue, that's kind of translating into being chili-esque, and this is a nice whiskey, very, very drinkable. Probably I want to say it's very flexible whiskey, because I think you could probably do quite a lot with this. You could drink it straight if you wanted to. Beautiful hot weather we're having here. Stick a couple of ice cubes in it. This will be all right. This is a sort of everyman whiskey. You know, you can go through this. You could mix up cocktails with this, and it would be perfectly acceptable to that. Not massive dominated in flavours, but the flavours are there. They're very delicate. Nice fresh fruit. Your pear fruit coming through. The Imperial Stout hasn't, I don't think, added what some other Imperial Stout cask finishes get from that finish, that particular finish. The creaminess of the mouthfeel isn't particularly dominant. So the mouthfeel is okay. It's not fantastic, but it's a young whiskey. It's reasonably priced. It's not very expensive. And for that, you're getting that reasonable access to a good quality whiskey. I know the people down at Listokes were delighted with the gold medal that they won at the International Wine and Spirit Awards, and so they should be. You know, I know people that are very down on awards, and sometimes I think they're a bit superfluous for a lot of stuff. But it is an industry congratulating itself, and people saying we recognise what you've done, and we recognise the quality and the attributes that you've put into it. And it's good and well done. I'm glad they got it, and I'm glad they're pleased with it. Now, you are on the nose. I can see why they would have selected this as their blend, because it is elements of the gin in it, but when it goes on the tongue, it's very much on its own in terms of being a whiskey, not a gin. It does, but you can see where the influences come through. I really like this. It's very, very good. I like the labelling, I like the branding, I like the company, I like what they do down there, and it's certainly well worth having a look for and seeing if you can pick up a ball. Again, one of the ones, it would be what you would term an entry level whiskey. Okay, you don't have to break the bank to buy it. So if you do see it, and normally you're drinking Powers or Black Bush or something, and you want something a little bit different, try this. You won't be disappointed. Value for money, absolutely. I'm beginning to get fed up giving scores, if I'm honest, because it's an arbitrary thing. One day you give one score, and the next day you give another, and it depends on value and so on. Where it's at, I'm quite happy to give this an 8 out of 10 as a entry to Irish whiskey. If you're going to spend money to buy proper 12, change horse and buy this stuff, because you will not be disappointed. It's much, much better quality. So I'm going to head off, and I shall get back to you again soon. So yeah, Listokes Wise Oil Whiskey, or Wow Whiskey, you know. So take care, stay safe, and see you soon.